Hey guys, welcome to another video. Thanks for tuning into this one. I have been working on just giving you guys a quick update on some of the programs that are currently open, and I know some of you are actually going through the process, maybe waiting on interviews. Some of you are waiting on taking the assessments depending on the cadet scheme that you've applied to. But the most important one that I also would want to touch on, because of just the popularity and just the fact that a lot of people are interested in this one, is the BA program. But I will have to make another video to really touch on that information at some point later, maybe over the weekend, maybe early next week. But the one I want to touch on majorly on this ones, the two cadet schemes I really want to talk about are the ones that are currently open, which one is TUI and the other one is the Aer Lingus. And I know a lot of you are going through the process. Some of you didn't get through the first few stages of the TUI program, which is quite disappointing. But one thing I always try to tell you is that know that nothing comes easy in a way, because to be honest with you, there's just a lot of factors that go into making those selections. And not that you don't qualify, you're not good enough. It's just that there's so many factors and you just have to keep trying. And that's what I encourage you to do. Keep trying, keep preparing yourself for these opportunities so that when they come around, you're able to put your best effort into them. So let's start with the first one that I want to cover, which is the TUI MPL cadet scheme that is currently on. Let me go back here. Now, right now, for those of you that are currently in the process, you are going for this stage here. This is where most people are currently waiting on, for those of you that have gone through stage 1 through 3. And the importance of this stage, if any of the stages that you have taken in the past, in the previous stages, or that you've gone through rather, if those are important, right? Of course, they were important, right? But this stage is even way more important, because this is where you actually get to show your personality. This is where you get to exercise those competencies that you claim to have in your CV, and also just going through the assessment stages itself that you've demonstrated that you have, like communication skills and ability to apply your knowledge in different areas. This is where you will need to demonstrate that. And I want to talk about that because I feel like, one, I haven't really shared much videos on this particular area of the interview. And it says here, I hope that you guys can see that. Let me just take a look. Okay, all right. So for stage 4, which is where you guys are right now, it says this will be an assessment day at our UK TUI Training Center, where you will complete a series of exercises followed by an individual interview with members of our recruitment team. Now, what does this stage actually include? All right, and this is the thing. I need to open another. Let me make sure. Okay, that's good. Just give me a second here. One of the important things that they've shared with those of you that are preparing for this stage is to consider the TUI brand, the values, the cultures, and how do you demonstrate those during the interview stage, right? During those questions you're being asked, how do you demonstrate those things? One of the first things that I always recommend to everybody is, before you go applying to any airline, all right, always make sure that you do your own research about the airline. It's very important, because if you don't know some of these core values of the airlines, then you may not be able to demonstrate that you are the right fit for that airline. And if I go here, I just want to show you guys something really quickly. It says their vision and values. That's what it says at the top. And all you need to do is give this a quick read, all right? Just so that you understand how they operate, okay? And then even their business, right? You need to understand the type of businesses they run. For example, it tells you everything here, all right? And all the information you need, for example, about the airlines, right? It tells you every information that you need. And I don't want to I know that a lot of you that are already doing your due diligence, right? You're already doing all your homework. You're already looking at all this information. This shouldn't be new to you, especially if you've been preparing properly. But this is something that I always share in all my videos, that before you even go applying, okay, before you even get to the stage of, the interviews, you want to make sure you understand the operation of the airline and know a few things about their goals, their mission, their values, things like that. And this applies to any airline, but whether it's BA, TUI, Aer Lingus, any of those. So make sure you do your part, review those things. But then the other thing that they also want you to, let me pull this up, that they also want you to remember, okay, is that what gets you excited about the work they do. For example, about TUI operations, right? So, for example, your motivation, right? I think I talk about this every time. What is your motivation to be a pilot? Why do you want to work for TUI? Okay, how do you then talk about those things in ways that applies to TUI goal, TUI's mission, values, right? Those are things you need to keep in mind. One of the things that they will also talk about is you need to be able to have examples during your interview. So, for example, right, they may ask you, right, how do you handle challenges? How have you dealt with challenges in the past? Those things need to be supported with examples that you have had. And the best way to go about giving examples will be to use examples that you have experienced in the past. So from maybe work, school, or just your interaction with people. It is generally better to use your professional experiences if you have some. If you don't, try to find something as close as possible to that, whether it's a job that you do part-time, things like that, volunteering activities. Those things can generally give you talking points, and it helps you to demonstrate that you have those competencies. Now, one thing, okay, and I know I remember saying a lot of ones in this video, but it is important to understand that when you go for these interviews, okay, they always want to see that you have the competencies. Okay, now let me talk about the competencies here. This is the next thing I want to talk about. Now, for any pilot interview, any assessment, they always bring up competencies. And the reason is because that is really how they assess you. If you have done some of these interviews in the past, you would know that while you're taking those assessments, or while you're taking those, while you're being interviewed, or while you're being asked questions, most of the time the person is literally looking at maybe a paper, or they're taking down notes, or they're checking boxes. And the reason why they're doing that is not because they want to write down all your stories. They just want to see how much of these competencies you can apply to a given scenario. So they may ask you things like, what would you do in X situation? Or they might say, tell me about a time in which you demonstrated your excellent communication skill. How do you do that, right? It's through the examples that you lay out. And that's why I always encourage everybody, all right, to look through these competencies and do what? Think about examples professionally, school, in different environments, so that you have multiple use cases to be able to present when you are asked these questions. So, for example, the first one is communication. And before I even lay them out, before I even talk about any of this, I always also encourage you, please memorize these competencies. Know them. There are 9 of them. All right. Memorize them for that time of those interviews, because the more you are able to put them and use them during your sessions or during your interviews, the better you are going to demonstrate that you have these competencies. So communication, workload management, situational awareness, knowledge, application of procedure, flight path management automation, flight path management manual. These 2, let me make sure you guys can see that. These 2 will generally be assessed during the simulator session. And that is why they bring you in for those simulators assessments and things like that. Otherwise, every other portion of these 9 competencies will be assessed on that day. And that is where you need to make sure that you want to walk out of that interview knowing that you have talked about or touched on all the competencies: problem solving and decision making, leadership and teamwork. So think about how you can apply these competencies. Now, this does not exclude things like professionalism, being honest, customer service. We have to remember those are not included in those competencies right there. But that doesn't mean that the airline doesn't care about those things. Things like honesty, professionalism, customer service, being flexible, right? Those are things that are important to a pilot's role, especially places like TUI, which, where they cater to different people, especially people that are going on vacation, cruises, things like that. You have to be able to demonstrate that customer service. You have to be able to demonstrate that flexibility. You have to be able to demonstrate that you care and you want to protect the brand. And I think I've touched about on this in different videos, especially on the BA program, where I talked about how you should always prioritize things. The first thing is always safety. In any of your conversations when it comes to taking care of a situation or handling any situation, an emergency, or taking care of a customer, or taking care of yourself or your crew member, number one is always safety. The next thing that you always want to think about is your procedure, SOPs, right? So if you've taken care of safety, is there an SOP to handle the problem? Is there any written out guideline, a checklist, a manual to follow that helps to that helps to shed more light on what you need to do for that particular situation? If there is none, then of course you move on to the next item, which would then be your ability to use your resources, your decision-making skills, your communication skills. So being able to tap into those resources. But in any of all of this, right, in any case, number one is always safety. Number two will then come into solving the problem, being efficient in it, right? 3 is tapping into your resources. 4 is, of course, will be things like protecting the passengers, right? In this case, taking care of them. And last but not least is always protecting the brand. All of these are important, but you always want to protect them. You always want to lay them out in a certain order so that you can demonstrate that you're able to prioritize things, you're able to manage your workload, you're able to solve problems, you're able to make decisions, and you're able to, safely execute a flight, or as a potential pilot or aspiring pilot. I think that was a little long, but I hope you guys are following on. All right. So let me just jump back to some of the things that I want to touch on here. One of the things that you would be also asked to talk about or to do is a group exercise. For the group exercises, I don't think it's going to be any different from what you have seen from other airlines, especially if you've done this in the past. But always remember that you are not this boss. You always want to know how to lead, and you also want to know how to follow. Most importantly, excellent communication skills is important, and not just keeping quiet, knowing when to talk and knowing when to be quiet so that the other person can talk is important in this. So don't try to act as if you know it all. It's always better to seek opinion. So for example, if you have 3 people and you have a problem and they say, is this thing white? Well, I have my opinion about it. I don't think it's white, but I'm not going to say that just yet, because I also want to taint other people's views about this item. So what I may do is, this object, it's quite interesting. What do you think? What does the other person think about it? Get their opinions, and then I'm going to come back and say, I think it looks gray, right? And the point here is you want to be able to show that you can get people's opinion, get people's feedback, and most importantly, share your own opinion as well. But if all you do is talk, and you don't give the people the opportunity to talk about their own or to share their own opinion, you would be considered someone that is too overzealous or just doesn't know how to take input from others, and that's not good, and that's not what you want. So I really do wish you guys the best of luck on this interviews that are coming up. It will start on the 15th of April. I wish you guys good luck. I wish you guys success, and of course, let us know in the comment section how you perform. Of course, if you want to share, please feel free to share. Don't forget to drop a like on the video. I'd love to see you in the next one.